In Kenya, the whole financial policy of the colony up to 1930 was founded on the principle that Africans should provide the bulk of the tax revenue, while the Europeans benefited most substantially from the services provided. In 1920, the Colonial Office took action and demanded that if the Kenya government wished to proceed with the elevation of native tax, it must impose new taxation specifically upon the Indians and Europeans. Upon investigation, it became clear that the native population was being overtaxed while the European population was paying no direct income tax at all. The efforts of the metropolitan state to impose income tax on the European community in Kenya began in 1920 when the income tax ordinance was passed through LECO, the Legislative Council. This tax bill had been instigated in response to strong Colonial Office pressure while preparing the 1922 budget for the colony. A prominent settler leader of the time, Lord Delemere, heading the new league, which represented the large European farmers in Kenya, pushed to repeal the income tax ordinance. In 1922, Delemere moved a resolution in LECO that the income tax ordinance of 1920 should be repealed and increased import duties be substituted for tax on the settlers. The Kenya government accordingly made representations to the Secretary of State in Britain that the tax was unpopular, and the Colonial Office were pressured into sanctioning the repeal of the income tax bill in 1922. This successful resistance of an income tax provision for Europeans was a double victory for the large-scale settlers in that direct taxation on Europeans had been averted and protective duties were imposed on foodstuffs. The latter covered items such as wheat, sugar, and tea, which were consumed largely by Africans. This principle of protection for settler agriculture was reaffirmed by the Kenya Tariff Committee of 1929. By 1933, in the context of retrenchment in Britain and its colonies, the Colonial Office began to exert renewed pressure on the Kenyan administration to impose a form of income tax on the European population. Finally, an income tax provision was passed in 1936, after a change of governorship in the colony. The difficulties of imposing such legislation indicated the immense political power of the large settler farmers. Indeed, between the wars, there was a constant dispute between Kenya colony and the metropolis on the question of political control. In the early 1930s, Lord Delemere had actually resigned his seat in LECO on the grounds that the Secretary of State in Britain had more real and complete control of government in Kenya than the elected members. Indeed, the settler barons would have preferred total autonomy from the metropolitan government if it had been possible.